Also, the Electoral Commission is insisting on the use of the Ghana card as a means of registration ahead of the 2024 general elections, despite a resolution by Parliament to have the EC return with a new CI with other means of registration. Also coming up this afternoon, Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre says it is Dr. Bawumia's time to lead the MPP as its flag bearer for the 2024 elections. We have an exclusive interview with him. And also in the bulletin this afternoon, Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II attempts to broker peace in the protracted Boko conflict as he invites feuding parties for mediation. Details of these stories and many more coming up shortly. Please do stay with us. Well, in our first story, in Accra High Human Rights Court precedents over by Justice. An Accra High Court's rights presided over by Justice Nicholas Adokatbi has made an order for interim injunction restraining the office of the Special Prosecutor, its agents, assigns, or persons whosoever described and claiming through it from the executing the arrest or warrant it purports to have procured. Now, the USP had declared Mr. Bisu wanted in connection with the ongoing investigations into corruption and corruption-related activities during his time on the Interministerial Committee. Now, it followed refusal by Charles Bisu to honor an invitation to appear for questioning, but the court has restrained the USP from effecting any arrest. The judge also restrained the USP from applying for further arrest warrant pending the determination of the substantive matter. The office is further barred from publishing notices purporting the applicant to be wanted pending the determination of the substantive matter. Now, the order lasts for 10 days and the case adjourned to 22nd June 2023. Meanwhile, sources at the USP tell 3FM that the special prosecutor does not need an arrest warrant before it can arrest a suspect. The source said that the USP can arrest a person of interest with or without a warrant, and that in the Charles Bisu case, they have not said that they have a warrant of arrest. They have only declared him wanted, and that on any day he will show up at the USP's secretariat and he will be arrested and his rights read to him. They also said that the interim enjoined order of the High Court is not enforceable on the USP. Now, on some other stories, the initial date for the sentencing of the Chinese national on trial for illegal mining offences, Aisha Huang, was rescheduled from May 25 to today, June 15, due to the strike by the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana. In the following news desk report, Christian Yali traces the genesis of her case.
Aisha Huang was arrested in 2017 and was charged with 2 counts of engaging in the sale and purchases of minerals without valid license, contrary to Section 99(1) of the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2015, Act 900, and also mining without license, contrary to Section 99(3) of the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2015, Act 900. But she and 3 others pleaded not guilty to the charges. After her deportation in 2018, she returned to Ghana and was rearrested. She changed her plea in the immigration offense she faced at the High Court from not guilty to guilty as part of a plea bargaining agreement with the Office of the Attorney General. Her plea was retaken and was convicted by the court, but the court, however, deferred her sentencing until the end of her trial. Aisha Huang also faced immigration offences after it emerged she entered the country in May 2010 with a 30-day visitor's visa until she obtained a dependent permit in November same year. Most of her documents, like the Ghana passport biodata and the marriage certificate of her alleged marriage to one Anthony Fabian, were said to be forged and fake.
Well, my colleague Lord Eduasari has been in court and brings us details from there. Lord, good afternoon. Now, what has been happening in court today?
Hello, Judith. So you recall that prosecution working on Aisha Huang's case completed their case on May 3. And Aisha Huang changed her plea of not guilty regarding the immigration offense, which stated that she entered the country illegally after she was prohibited. She changed her plea from not guilty to guilty. But three other charges against her, which is the undertaking in mining without license, facilitating participation of persons engaged in mining, as well as illegal employment of foreign nationals. She still pleaded not guilty. Now, today in court, presiding judge Justice Lydia Osemafu ruled that a submission of no case has been dismissed. Earlier, Aisha's lawyers filed a submission of no case with regards to the charges I read earlier. But in her ruling, the presiding judge noted that when you go to Amante Central, there's evidence of mining, and the person of interest, which is Aisha Huang, who is Aisha Huang, had also been identified by all 11 prosecution witnesses. And so it showed that a prima facie has been determined against her. And because of this, she was supposed to come and answer to the courts regarding these charges. Then we'll know if the trial should proceed or not. So as it stands now, she's supposed to file her witness statement for the trial to continue.
Right, now you've been speaking to her lawyer. What has he been saying?
Right, so Aisha's lawyer he didn't speak to us, but we've got the Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Chia, who maintains that the case has the state has a strong case against the Chinese national as far as the three charges that have been proffered against her is concerned. You can listen to him now.
After the court has given a ruling indicating that this person has a case to answer, and it is something that we cherish. But that has no opposition, that this person has engaged in illegal mining. He has also engaged foreigners to engage in illegal mining. He has also entered Ghana illegally. And I do think that the ruling of the court indicating that he must open a defense is in the right direction. So we are
Okay, so now from where we have gotten to, the court have made further orders. Where exactly are we expecting that should come in?
Yes, the court has ordered them to file a witness statement by the 3rd of July. Back on the 5th of July, possibly for her to testify. Back on the 6th of July to do a cross-examination. Also be back on the 10th of July. So it's our expectation that by the 10th of July, we have finished re-examining Aisha, the late in the evening for our addresses.
Do you think you have made enough to so much that no matter the defense puts up, you will be able to secure a conviction?
On our part, we've done what we're supposed to do. And under criminal jurisprudence, it's always expected to raise doubt. So that's a business. So when people to raise doubt, then maybe it may tell the kind of decision it may tell, but without.
Now, you heard the lawyer right then. At first, I was speaking to Lord, who was in court as well. Now, moving on to some other stories. And the Electoral Commission is insisting on the use of the Ghana card as the means of registration ahead of the 2024 general elections, despite a resolution by Parliament to have the EC return with a new CI with other means of registration. Dr. Srebo Kweku said the Ghana card is the only way of ending the old age challenge of registration of minors onto the electoral roll.
But the challenge now is we are satisfied that we have addressed the impersonation to a large extent, we have addressed the multiple registration, multiple voting to a large extent. But how do we address the registration of minors and the registration of foreigners? I believe the politicians will not help us. Because most of it are not, they are those who will infringe that voting, and they will end up accusing the Electoral Commission of having registers that prevent members. So these are people know it's a bad man. But let us begin think that one way of addressing it is to use the Ghana card. And there have been a lot of arguments. We are still battling it out, and we are still insistent that let us use the Ghana card so that we address the issue of minors, because their date of birth is on the card, and the citizenship is also on the card. So that also is the way to reduce drastically the registration of minors and foreigners. So in brief, this is what I want to say from the Electoral Commission point of view.
Now, my colleague Mawina Ebeta joins us on call with more on this. Now, Mawina, good afternoon. I know you've been there, and Afari-Jan, we are told, has been speaking. What has he been saying?
Right, so the former chair of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kojo Afari-Jan, has also been speaking here at this particular event, amongst many other things, and making the case that the quite elaborate numbers in terms of collation centers leaves the entire electoral process susceptible to voter manipulation. He makes the case that with the high numbers and collating results from different centers and different polling stations and the likes, it creates room for voter manipulation and numbers changing, and cites the example with what has been witnessed in Nigeria over their last presidential elections and the current battle in their presidential election tribunal. And so he makes the case that if possible, we need to begin to have conversations as to reducing the numbers in terms of collation centers. We can take a listen to it.
So voter tabulation sounds like a simple and straightforward activity. However, examples from recent elections would indicate that collecting centers are the most vulnerable points in manipulating election results. So it is not desirable to set up many collation points in the results management process. Each collation center represents a point where results can be corrupted willfully or through mistakes. Each collation center represents a point where results can be corrupted willfully or through mistakes. Also, the more collating points there are in the results management process, the more difficult it is to track changes in results. In any case, in recent times, a lot of controversies over election results have arisen over vote tabulation issues.
Now, Mawina, we know that representatives from the two leading parties are also at the roundtable discussion. What have they been saying?
Right, so different opinions, and currently speaking is the former Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Dr. Peter Boamo-Tokuno, and he's been quite fiery in his commentary, raising, amongst many other things, objections to the processes of the Electoral Commission, particularly in the lead-up to the 2020 general elections, and concerns they had raised, which continue, in their opinion, paint the picture that the Electoral Commission is not being independent and transparent, as was the case during the time of Dr. Kojo Afari-Jan, and is making the case, amongst other things, a number of proposals they had made public to the Electoral Commission after the 2020 general elections for onward implementation, which has also formed the basis for the reason why they do not attend IPAC meetings. And so that's for Dr. Peter Boamo-Tokuno. Then we've been also hearing from Dr. Peter McMahon, who's been making the case that Parliament must not be overzealous in seeking to restrict the Electoral Commission in the line of its duty. And they make this argument, a point in case in relation to the use of the Ghana card as a sole identifier for the 2024 elections, the voter registration, which the Electoral Commission is intending to undertake. They make the case that that should not be the case and that the Electoral Commission should be allowed because this is one of the surest ways of eliminating the age-old problem of age cheating during registration, Judith.
Right, thank you very much. And that was Mawina Ebeta giving us some details on that as well. Now, moving on, the Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre has revealed that 120 NPP MPs supports the candidature of Vice President Dr. Mahmudu Bawumia to become the flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party. Speaking exclusively to 3FM, Frank Anodompre says it is Dr. Bawumia's time and no one must attempt to change it.
Well, as of the last count, and I pray it gets better. As of the last count, we're doing over 119 MPs. 119 MPs? Yes, as of the last count. Yes, who support, who have, some have whispered into my ears, okay, some have shown it openly, and so that is how it looks. I am praying that it gets better. Many of them have gone out of the jurisdiction. Many of them have traveled. Many of them were on assignment, who personally sent me messages that they regret their absence and all that. So we are doing around 190, 120, but we seek to get it better.
Looking at the majority caucus, how is this likely to affect, if not managed well?
Okay. There's a lot of discipline in our caucus, I can tell you. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but you cannot campaign openly on our platform. If you campaign openly, I take you off the platform. So we set out some code of some regulations that we think that lead up to.
If you're talking about the platform, it means
our platform, the MPs,
the WhatsApp one
caucus. We have a WhatsApp platform,
okay,
and you cannot post any posting that seeks to give an advantage or project or advertise any of the candidate. That has been established. So the MPs also understands that they have their constituencies to win. There's a bigger picture of winning an election. Therefore, you can project your candidate, but it should be done in moderation. That is why these supposed exchange between myself and our senior colleague, the Honorable Kennedy Japan. I was very careful. If you were there when I was addressing the media, I was very careful in the choice of words and subsequently how I've related to the matter.
Now I'll stay a bit more in Parliament. And Member of Parliament for Dom Kwabena constituency, Sarah Adwoa-Safo, has declared her intentions to delegate to seek re-election as the New Patriotic Party upcoming primaries. Now the former Deputy Majority Leader's vote margin dwindled in the last elections from 67.99% in 2016 to 58.37% in 2020 after a fierce contest with Faustina Akrugu of the National Democratic Congress. Eliplim Akrugu has been re-elected for the 2024 elections, the first time the opposition party will be retaining a candidate in the constituency. And already pundits are predicting a tough race for the incumbent MP if she returns. She is, however, expected to face a fierce contest from the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, Mike Okwe Jr., who gave her a good run for her money in the last primaries. But she says only God will stop her from seeking to retain the seat for the New Patriotic Party.
na party payifo eyi bia free kwan no mo ka semra she bedwe kunya na e wo pese isu asanya to a mo ka me hu na mo time achi die na sai appreview no bagawaya.
And that was Adwoa-Safo declaring her intention of course, to seek re-election for her constituency. She says, of course, only God will stop her from seeking that re-election. Now let's move on to some health stories. Now, the Muslim community is entreated to avoid exposing themselves unduly to anthrax virus in the bid to celebrate the upcoming Eid al-Adha festival. Ahead of the Eid al-Adha festival, which is characterized by the heavy consumption of meat, the Ministry of Health has redoubled its efforts to contain the anthrax virus, which has already spread to 6 districts in the Upper East region. Now, according to the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Shaibu, the office of the Chief Imam is duly aware of the situation and concerned about the well-being of the larger Muslim community who stand a high risk of the infection.
Our concern has to do more with the risk of the outbreak of the disease, because if the ban is not heeded to and people take some hidden routes in order that they will move with the animals to the down south to where we are here, then what it means is that we will lose the battle of really containing the outbreak. And so from the briefing that we got, the Chief Imam has made a commitment that he will make sure that all regional imams will get the information and to educate the Muslims, not even Friday congregation alone, but wherever there is a Muslim social gathering where such an information needs to be given, we will make sure that the information is given. As human beings, we must live in order to be able to worship God. So if the outbreak of anthrax is such that we have to even avoid the eating of slaughtered cows, definitely that's what we must do so that we can save life. And there are alternatives. In fact, cows are not the only animals to be slaughtered, except because of the abundance of their meat. The preferred animal is the ram. Assuming we are in an area where it is possible to get camel to slaughter.
Well, he further called on Muslims who are traders in animal livestock to engage the services of the veterinary services or officers to ensure all animals are vaccinated to contain the spread.
Once you see any animal showing signs of disease, of sickness, report it to the appropriate health authority. Once you also see an animal so emaciated, be careful using certain animal for the festivity. We have to report once we see an animal dying for reasons that we don't understand, then definitely we must report the case. Now, if we see anybody complaining of certain sickness we don't understand within the period, we must advise quickly that the person goes to the health authority where we can get vaccinated. We want to also see the situation where Muslims who are engaged in animal husbandry, who are engaged in livestock, breeding, to make sure that they engage the services of veterinary officers to make sure that all the animals are vaccinated.
The Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Sedu-Bekwe, noted the cooperation of the public. The multi-sectorial task force is hopeful the situation would be brought under control. So we visited some livestock markets to find out what the situation is like currently. And my colleague Emmanuel Samani was at some markets in Accra, and he joins us in studios to tell us more. Now, Samani, tell us, where did you visit and what was the situation like?
Well, Judith, many thanks for your time. I visited the Yomo Fuel, livestock markets where, they're into cattle and other livestock. And I will say that they're pretty much unfazed by the anthrax outbreak in Binduri, because here's telling me that for them, what they want to do is to get their livestock from Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and these other countries. But what they also want the veterinary services to really, pick up and ensure that all the cattle that is coming from the northern parts of Ghana down south are clear from anthrax. So basically, they are telling their clients, people who want to get some cattle for the Sunline and other facilities, to know that their cattle predominantly is not coming from the Binduri district, but they're coming from Burkina Faso and so on and so forth.
Right, so they do not care about the whole issue?
They seem pretty unfazed by it. One of the guys I interacted with was even telling me that, well, the anthrax outbreak affected just one cow, and so long as that cow has been killed, he doesn't think that any cattle coming down south will be infected by cattle. They also made mention that indeed it does not affect sheep and goats. It only affects cows as per what they are used to, and so it shouldn't be a problem for buyers as well.
Right, thank you very much for your time with us, Samani. Of course, we bring you more details on this story in our subsequent bulletins. But moving on to some other stories, Asante Hene Tumfo Setutu II says he has begun mediation towards resolving the protracted chieftaincy dispute in Boko. Upon receiving the chieftaincy and religious affairs minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng at the Minshia Palace, Asante Hene remarked pockets of chieftaincy conflicts in parts of the country have become about as a result of attempts by some parties to change the status quo.
Kani judicial committee the bin mo jisika ni ebua asem no na aye nwanran so ba e todo no ama bantane ne nyina ji edi bua ma de odi fokrachia de odi bem mo nyina aso de nsatu eyem ko e no na ma sa ahensem ne ntokwa no basem kontompo no ba na ma no basa Boko eguso afenia ma buso no modi afena me be hia yi nyina ya de abotre no krede ha obia ma mo obia ka obia be kana asem ne eti na de enti a achia ma na basa ne yakoni ahumu no kre me nua nairi wa ba me na di nkomo boko na ba wa ba me na di nkomo Rusi ade she wo boko omo so aba me na di nkomo ma krachifo ma akumi enu be wo ma frɛ na di nkomo say yo wo pepe bia so di aba ta me kinkan ni ebi afi ye frɛ obi abehia ye be di nkomo ne ye de no kre na wo ye busem a ye be hunu sɛ asɛm no sɛ de no kre si no dru oni nyina ya tra dem ahwe oyonko enim tin enti ntokwa na nyina hu ne ya tra dem sɛ ye ka ne nyina abetwa.
And that was Asante Hene Tumfo Setutu II. Of course, he's saying that he's going to have a meeting with the chiefs on the dispute in Boko, and he's asking that all the chiefs should be able to tell him all their problems so that they can resolve these issues amicably. And that's how we end the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Judith Tandoh. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs.